Hey there, welcome back to our Century Farmhouse. Today we're going to be doing a little bit of decorating, baking, sewing, and preserving all of my favorite things in the farmhouse this summer. I hope you'll join me on this holiday weekend. Hey there, it's Lauren with Rustic Honey. Welcome back. I hope you guys are having a wonderful 4th of July weekend. I know it has been nice to relax around here after a few busy weeks here at the farmhouse. I kind of left you last week with a big pile of cucumbers, and as you can see after the video, I got started on making some pickles for our pantry. I had no intention of canning pickles this year, but Dan had planted so many cucumber plants that they were just multiplying on my counters, and I couldn't seem to give them away quick enough, so I thought I need to make a batch of pickles because I don't want to see anything get wasted. But if I'm being completely honest with you, I still did not get to every single cucumber that came out of our garden, and the rest of those were fed to our chickens. So here on the farm, I feel like it's easier to not waste food. I at least feel like if we can't get to something, that our animals will end up eating the scraps. So that's what I did with those, and I worked up a batch of pickles here, as you can see, with onions. I'm working on bread and butter pickles this evening. Probably our favorite pickle in this household, and we'll use it on various different sandwiches and burgers throughout the year. I'm hoping that this batch that I made will last us for a year. The recipe I am following today is from the Ball Blue Book, and I'm actually making a triple batch of what the recipe is in that book. I will link that book down below. If you are into canning or would like to get into canning especially, I think that it's a great resource to have to better understand how to preserve our food, because some items you do need to water bath and other items you need to pressure can. So it's important to read up on all of those things so you know how to can safely to preserve your food in the best way. Also, if you're new to canning, grab a buddy who knows what they're doing. My mother-in-law showed me how to can back when we first got married, and I have been so grateful for that experience to work alongside someone in their kitchen that knows what they're doing, and I feel like being able to see someone work through the process is very helpful for me. If you don't have a friend, maybe you need to be that friend for someone else, or if you're just getting started and you don't have access to someone else, definitely check out other videos on YouTube. I am no expert by any means, but I have been canning for a while. So if you'd like to see more canning content, I guess let me know about that in the comments below. I will share as much as I can about what I know. Now, those pickles will have to set for a while before they really take on the full pickle flavor, so I am going to store those in the pantry. But if you watched last week's video, you know I still have cucumbers and onions ready to go for our hamburgers later this evening. So with dinner all planned out, let's get busy around the house. I would like to get some patriotic decor out today, freshen up some things around our home outside of the kitchen, and I even want to bring you through a fun little 4th of July sewing project that I've been avoiding for quite some time now. As you saw there, I was ever so gently trying to step into the garden with my sandals on because the soil is still very wet. We've continued to get really good rain showers here, and I almost don't want to say that because I'm afraid I'll jinx it, because at any point it feels like we could stop getting rain and it'll just be dry and hot like it was last summer. So we're very thankful for the rain this year, and our garden has been doing lovely as well. What has not been doing lovely is my kitchen over here. We have this one side of the counter that's always just filled with stuff. It's like a hot spot all the time. And as you can see, my little home basket there, it was getting out of control after having the baby. I had just been stuffing things in it. So I need to reorganize that later this week too. But I wanted to freshen up the kitchen with some more patriotic vibes. So I had to pull back out the red and white little curtains here. You may have seen me sew these tan colored ones earlier this spring. I think if I put them back up, I'm going to put a lining behind them because they ended up being so thin They did the trick for a while, but I'm ready to have the red, white, and blue out today, so I thought I would break these out. I often decorate with these at Christmas time too, but I have to say they're my favorite in the summer because they make me think of picnics, and of course they go great with all of my patriotic decor. And since all I had to do was switch these curtains out, it was something I had already made in the past. It's a quick little 15, not even 15 minutes. It's a 5-minute task that makes a big impact in my kitchen to freshen things up for the season. So it is a little bit of a labor of love to sew new curtains, but I do love keeping them and changing them throughout the season because it really does freshen up the space. I also love to add a little bit to our open shelving. I thought about hanging this bunting here and I really liked it, but I felt like it clashed with the red and the white that I had everywhere else. It's a little bit more of a vibrant red and white in the curtains. And so I just ended up putting them in a different spot because I didn't feel like it jived quite right for me. And I have this really big vase in the basement that I keep these flags in throughout the year just to store them. And I happened to set it on my island, and for some reason that just was a happy accident. And I added some florals to it to create a little centerpiece, and I really liked it, so I thought I would just leave it there. I love when something new like that just happens to come together. It's great when something like that happens on its own with something you already own. You don't have to go out and buy anything new. And I know I've said that many times on my channel, but I will often just bring up all of my decor and set it all out and then just see where the inspiration takes me. I don't always decorate the same every season. Now it's about 2:30 in the afternoon, and as you can imagine, my kids are already hungry again. In fact, my oldest came up and asked me what time dinner was. So back to the kitchen I go. I made them some of those corn dogs that we had made in our freezer video. I'll link those below. So the mini corn dogs to the rescue for an afternoon little snack on the back porch, and I'm gonna throw in some freezer cookies as well. I don't know why I try to freeze the cookie dough because it seems like the kids either eat it frozen out of the freezer or we bake them within just a couple days. There's really no reason to freeze cookie dough around here because the more cookie dough we have on hand, the more cookies we end up baking. All right, while we're in the kitchen, let's go ahead and get a prep for tonight going. I'm going to make hamburgers on the grill, but I wanted to make some hamburger buns, mostly because I don't have anything on hand. I often just buy hamburger buns from the store because that's the easiest thing, but I've been seeing so many homemade ones lately online. They've been following me around, and I thought, I can try that. We'll try homemade hamburger buns. I can surely make this happen. So I think we often build up these things in our heads to be so much more difficult than they are. As you guys know, I've been making bread for a while, so I don't know why I thought it seemed so much more complex to make a hamburger bun when really it's basically the same thing. So I followed a recipe I found online. I'll be sure to link it below so that you can try it out too. But it was really easy to throw together. The biggest hurdle or the biggest obstacle that I had to face was remembering to start my dough earlier in the day so that I had plenty of rise time before dinner. That's usually, especially something on like a Friday evening, I think is the night that I'm doing this. So something on a Friday sometimes gets away from me quickly. That's why I love to have a dinner plan by at least lunchtime every day so I know what I'm walking into. Because if I open my refrigerator at 5 o'clock and I don't see anything ready to go, it's really overwhelming. And I'm much more likely to order pizza at that point. So like I said, this recipe was really simple. I just had to mix up the ingredients, let it sit for a couple hours, and then right here I'm shaping it into the little buns. And then I'm gonna let these rest on the counter for another hour, hour and a half before they're ready to bake. The actual hands-on process of this recipe isn't very much. It's just making sure that you have enough time for the rise, of course, in between. This recipe made about 8 hamburger buns, and I will say I probably should have just went ahead and done a double batch because with my growing boys, we went through these really quickly the first night, and I had actually made extra hamburger patties, as you'll see later in the video, just to have some leftovers for the next day's lunch. So if you have a big family, you might want to double this recipe, but while you have everything dirty, you might as well go ahead and do it all at once. I ended up making another batch of these later on to go with the rest of the hamburgers. And as you can see here, I am separating one egg yolk and egg white. So we're going to use the egg white to brush on top of our buns. It's going to give them that nice brown color and make them really pretty. You'll have to stick with me because these are really pretty when they come out of the oven. And I was very pleasantly surprised at what I had created. It was one of those proud moments where something comes out of the oven and you're like, I did it. Look at that. It's so cute. I think it's the sesame seeds. It just sets it off. It's like sprinkles on a cookie. My kids really like the sesame seeds too, which I think is funny because I think some kids don't like sesame seeds, but my kids think that is like maybe the McDonald's burger. So they just get excited about that. I don't know what it is. All right, we're going to pop those buns in the oven. And while we're waiting, we might as well do a little bit of a cleanup here on these jars and get them into the pantry for our long-term storage. So as you can see, I've removed the rings from the caps and made sure that everything's sealed wonderfully. And it was a 100% sealing batch, which is always exciting. If you can, you know exactly what I mean, because every once in a while you have a batch that something doesn't seal and you've got to store it in the fridge or use it right away. So that's always exciting when everything seals and you can put it all away and admire your hard work and know that you'll get to enjoy it throughout the year. Now I'm going to use that egg yolk that I separated earlier to make some homemade mayo with you today. That is something that I wanted to learn how to make this year. Another thing that I thought, from the outside looking in, it looks like a complex recipe. I don't know if I can make that, but it's really so simple. And once you get used to making it more often, like most things, it just becomes second nature. So I will link this recipe, of course, in the description box below too. And it is about time to take the buns out of the oven and show you how beautiful they turn out. This is my excited face all of a sudden when I realize how pretty they are when they come out of the oven. I'm going to set these aside and let them cool while we get things ready to go for the grill. I could have waited and baked these around the same time, but I have a little project in my sewing room that I want to take you to next. And I wanted to make sure everything was ready to go so that hopefully Dan can go monitor the grill while I do a few things upstairs. Now, one project I have been working on this summer is decluttering my sewing room. I really want to paint my sewing room and redo it. So I've just been trying to go through the items that I have and get rid of old projects. But I came across these little strips of denim, and I am so embarrassed to tell you this, but I have had these strips of denim cut out for years now. I want to say probably at least 8 years ago. And I have had the denim for even longer than that. So I thought today I am just finally either going to work on this project or I'm going to just part with it. And so for some reason, could not part with it. I thought, originally I wanted to make a really big wall hanging or a quilt that looked like an American flag. That was what the inspiration was because I had seen a leather one hanging on a wall in New York City once. And I thought, well, I'm going to do that, but with denim. And this is probably like 10 years ago, the inspiration hit. And this is how slowly or how important that project was. Obviously not so. But I thought today, I'm just going to start putting it together. It won't take very long. The strips are already cut. And I guess one gift that I received here with waiting 10 years was all of the pieces are lovely with the frayed edges now. The fray just kind of happened on its own over time as my kids had played with these scraps around the sewing room. So I'm piecing it all together and I'm trying to decide if I really like the clean cut side or if I like the scrappy look side of the back here. And I think for the sake of this being a really simple project and kind of the vibe I'm going for, I'm going to use the scrappy looking side here with all of the frayed edges. And instead of making a large wall hanging like I had originally pictured for this, I just don't know where I would hang that right now. I thought instead I am gonna make a pillow cover. And I actually had enough denim to do two. So I'm gonna make 2 little pillow covers. I already have some pillows I can throw them on, so I'm just using that to do a quick measure. And then I thought about taking the pieces or the edges of this that I had sewn together and doing like a really cute pieced quilt block for where the stars would be on the flag. But again, for the sake of time and mom life, and I just want to finish this project, I chose a cute little aged ticking stripe, and I'm just gonna do a little raw edge seam across the top. I just think that is really cute, and it just ties in really nice with the stripes, but gives you the feel of the American flag at the same time. Now, by the looks of this video, the different outfits and the different lighting, you're probably gonna think that this project took me a really long time, but I just want you to know that it actually didn't, but it was done in little pockets of time. So here I am at night sewing for 15 minutes before bed, and then the next morning maybe another 15 minutes to get it all completed. So it was a quick project, a little quick win, and I feel so much better having these done. But I chose a little navy twill for the back, so I'm just getting that pinned on. I could hear my grandmother in the back of my mind saying, pin that together before you go to the sewing machine, because I have a tendency to just wing it and, you know, hope that everything holds together. But when you're doing a pillow with the overlay on the back, it's probably best to try and pin that together. I know I did a quick zoom through on that entire pillow, so let me know if you would like to see a detailed video on how to construct a pillow like this. Let me know in the comments below if you're into sewing or want to learn more. I would definitely love to make a video like that for you if you're interested. Now, the last step is always the most exciting, to see how the pillow came together. We're just gonna flip it right side out, and here she is. I just love the lived-in look here, and I love even more that I finally got to use these denim strips. So we're gonna stuff these pillows, and I'm actually gonna sit them down in our living room for the holiday weekend here, and maybe even through Labor Day. But since I have two, I think I'm going to sit these on my boys' beds in their bedroom. They have matching twin beds. They're kind of antique, and I'm hopefully soon going to be redoing their room as well. I'm hoping to do kind of a vintage Americana sports theme, so I feel like these would fit very nicely in there. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you have a wonderful 4th of July weekend. We'll see you back here again soon.